Dan Ullman, Mike Beer, taking a look at race number 10 at Churchill Downs on Kentucky Derby Saturday. It's a grade one. It's worth $1 million, and we're going 7 furlongs for the Churchill Downs Stakes. Let's take a peek at this field. There's some nice sprinters in this year's edition of the Churchill Downs Stakes. One of the keys to the race, however, Mike, is the number 6 Zozos, making his seasonal debut after finishing 5th in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. He likes life at Churchill Downs, winning the ACAC 2 starts back at a 1-turn mile.
Yeah, he's a tough call in this race, I thought. He's going to be one of the favorites, I think, Dan. I think he's got the right running style for this race because I don't think this pace is necessarily going to be that fast. He should be forward. I guess the argument for him, I'm not a big fan. I think the argument for him is he's better going shorter, and they're finally starting to run him in the right races.
Let's take a look at our Timeform US pace projector. Hoist the Gold, the 11, made his big money when being aggressively ridden in the Cigar Mile over a speed-favoring sloppy track. After that, they got aggressive with him in the Pegasus World Cup. Distance a little bit too far, company a little bit too tough. Similar situation last time out in the Saudi Cup, but if he gets to the lead here, he could be very dangerous.
Got to use his speed. He's breaking from the far outside here, but you just got to go with this horse because I don't really feel like there's a ton of pace in this race. I think he is fast enough to make the lead, and it could be a big advantage if he gets there. The 6 and the 7, I guess they'll both be forward. Cruz has a little bit of tactical speed, but he's hardly a blazer. I just didn't see a ton of pace in this race, Dan.
And that could work against a horse like the number 1 Raise Kane, who I still feel has a big race in him. Raise Kane's last couple of races look pretty poor on paper, but 2 starts back in the Malibu, caught a speed-favoring track and a really good horse in Speedboat Beach. In the Commonwealth, I just don't think the pace was there for him last time out. His one in the Perryville 3 starts back shows there's still something here for Raise Kane, a horse that has shown flashes at times.
I mean, I'm going to agree with all that stuff. I do feel like there's still a chance that he could jump forward at some point and run another big race. I'll admit, I'm starting to lose some patience with this horse. I hear what you're saying about the Malibu 2 back, but I mean, come on, man. He didn't do any running at all in that race. And the pace was against him last time for sure. The pace could be against him again in this race, though, Dan. And that's another race, the Commonwealth last time, where he just didn't do anything. I know that he was against the track and against the setup a little bit, but I want to see him kick it in and maybe feel like he was unlucky. He didn't feel unlucky to me in there.
And he might not even be the best closer in this race because that could go to the number 2, Tahano Twist, the horse that was 3rd in this race last year and has kind of had the misfortune at Oaklawn over the winter to take on Skelly, who might be the best sprinter in the country a couple of times. Tahano Twist last time out was wired by Skelly, and he was just outrun in the early portion of that race, but as usual, he came with a good, strong late kick, and that's what we've come to expect. Is he better at 6, though, than 7?
I mean, he might be. That's one thing you have to take into consideration. I think what you really have to worry about with them here is the pace. I don't know if they're going to go fast enough in front of him. I'll say this about him, Dan. I mean, you're right that the 2 races against Skelly recently, this horse ran really well both times. He just can't beat that horse, especially going 6. I don't know where Skelly is. I don't know why he's not in here. But either way, even I look at the race 2 back, the Whitmore, you get beat by Jackson Traveler, and I kind of want no part of you in a grade 1 race. But Tahano Twist was best in that race. He ran huge in there. The pace was against him. He couldn't quite get there. I would argue he's in the best form of anyone coming into this race. He's in the best form. And I think in some ways he's the horse to beat. It's all about trip.
Al Stahl is such a good trainer, and he decided for the 3 Cruz, the best course of action was to turn him back in distance. And he did so in the Commonwealth last time out at Keeneland, and Cruz was able to stay close to a very moderate pace. A graded stakes race, they went 46-1. Cruz is able to grab the lead turning for home, and he's going to hold off Minnesota Ready. Now, this seems like a tougher spot for Cruz, who might have found himself as a sprinter. However.
Yeah, no, I'll agree with that. He is a horse that you could look at him and say, you know what, he's just better going shorter. They got him in the right race last time, and he took the step forward that you wanted him to take. I don't like the Commonwealth as a race. I kind of want to stay. There's 3 horses back in here out of that spot. I don't really want any of those horses, but I get the argument for Cruz at a fair price.
Mr. Wireless was knocking on the door towards the end of 2022 and in all of his races in 2023 and just found 1 or 2 better while running very fast races and running pretty well. He then was sent to the sidelines, and Brett Calhoun, another one of our favorites, brought him back at a shorter distance and Maybe this is what Mr. Wireless has been waiting for. He won last time out like breaking sticks. 102 Buyer speed figure. He also got a pretty good trip against a very weak field.
Yeah, he did. Isn't it? He was 8-1 in that race too. Isn't it? The more I look at it, then don't you know? I kind of feel like Calhoun probably brought him back and thought, "Well, prep him going 6, look for something else," and then this horse shows up and runs that race, and all of a sudden you feel like maybe this horse has been better going shorter all along. They're going to run him in a grade 1 now, going 7. He's good enough to beat this field. This is not a super strong field. If he can run his A race going this distance against some slightly better competition, he can win here. He might be a fair price.
He's a millionaire, and his last race at Churchill Downs was a victory going a one-turn mile. This is a horse that also seems a little bit tactical. He can adapt to the pace. Hear My Song is up next. This horse ran in a synthetic sprint last time out, the Big Daddy Stakes, and he kind of fell far behind. He didn't break very well, and I think that's a little bit of a worry. Coming the first start off of a layoff, Mike, for Hear My Song, who now returns to dirt where he just might be better.
Probably is a better dirt horse, and he's got a race or two that's going to give him a real look in here, Dan. I mean, they ran him in this race last year. It wasn't a terrible performance, but they tried to put him on the lead that day against Cody's Wish. You don't have to ride this horse that way. He's got races that are perfectly fine from just off the pace. Could be a good trip coming. I'm not a huge fan of this horse. I prefer others in this race. Could be a good trip coming, though, at a good price.
He won the 2023 Commonwealth at good odds from just off of the pace. The 6 is Zozos. This horse won the ACAC going a mile at Churchill Downs 2 starts back. Just in a little bit too tough last time out in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile against the likes of Cody's Wish and National Treasure. And now Brad Cox is going to bring him back. It's nice to know that this horse has run well fresh in the past, and he has won sprinting. His only career start sprinting was his debut.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do think the argument for him is that he's just always been a little bit better, going a little shorter, and they tried to make him a route horse. They got him into the Derby as a 3-year-old. It just might not be what he really wants to do, and he could be better going shorter. That being said, I get the ACAC and the Knicks Go, the 2 one-turn miles here that he won last year. He ran fine in those races. The figures came back good. I personally thought he had the softest trips in the world. Those paces weren't fast. He's sitting right up there, and I thought he took advantage a little bit. He can win here. I probably don't really want to bet him at 3-1.
Trainer Wayne Lucas might have found the key for the 7 track mate, and that was blinkers. He put the blinkers on 2 starts back. The horse responded with a big victory, and then he came back with an even better one. Here's his second level allowance win at Oaklawn on April the 5th. He's in behind horses turning for home. He's just looking for a seam. He was traveling very comfortably on the turn. It takes him a little while to change leads, but once he does, he puts them away.
Yeah, he does finish this race off. He was a lot better, I thought, in this race. The race, he won 2 starts back also, and he improved that day. I didn't really care for that performance too much. He was better in this race. He got a faster figure for it. I guess he's one of the horses who could get a really good trip in this race too. Listen, maybe he'll back that last race up and be really tough in here. I wasn't sold on this horse.
Minnesota Ready is the number 8, and this horse was purchased for about $300,000 at the Lothenbach Stable Dispersal, and then first start for Tom Amos exploded to win the off-turf Colonel Power with a 102 Buyer speed figure, and that emboldened Amos to try this horse in the Grade 3 Commonwealth last time out, and he ran just fine when second to Beau Cruz. But as we said, Mike, we're just not sure if the Commonwealth field stacks up with this field. This is tougher.
Yeah, didn't really like the horses coming out of the Commonwealth. And listen, Minnesota Ready, he didn't embarrass himself in that race, Dan, but he sat up close to Beau Cruz. I just wanted to see him make a race of it in there. If I was really going to think he's a top class sprinter now, make a race of the Commonwealth. He couldn't even make a race of it.
3 Technique is the number 9, and this horse will be making his first start of the year, but he looks a little bit dirtied up, didn't he? He ran quite well against Zozos when third in the ACAC at Churchill Downs, and then they ran him in the Breeders' Cup Sprint where he was completely overmatched. I thought his Cigar Mile was deceptively good. Again, that was a muddy track. Speed did very well. He was wide, rallied from off the pace, and still got up for 4th.
Yeah, I agree. He kind of ran an underrated race that day where he had no chance with Speed just carrying all day. I thought that was an okay performance. I don't care about the Breeders' Cup Sprint 2 back. He was never going to win that. He's got the 2 one-turn mile losses to Zozos. He ran really well in both of those races. They just didn't set up at all for him. And to me, he had no chance at all. In between, he wins 2 races, including a Grade 2 going this distance at Saratoga or at Belmont with a 99 Buyer. He needs a little bit of pace, not a ton of pace. He needs a little bit of pace. He can be there.
Gun Pilot, the number 10, was handled like a good one by trainer Steve Asmussen last year. They ran him in the Pat Day Mile, they ran him in the Woody Stevens, and then they sent him to the bench perhaps to grow up. And it looks like he has come back a more mature individual as a 4-year-old. He won his first 2 starts. They ran him in the Eclipse Stakes last time out. He was the beaten favorite, but he ran on decently to be second, Mike. It just seems like he's slowly getting better.
Yeah, I like this performance. I know he's only second best as the favorite here. I think he runs well. The winner of the race actually has good form to back him up, and he earns a triple-digit buyer here. It's a good performance, I think, for Gun Pilot. Another horse that I think they figured it out. He wants to sprint. He's got 3 starts under his belt now. He's way better at 4 than he was at 3. I think he's a very interesting horse in this race to use at a price.
Hoist the Gold is the number 11. It's so hard to actually figure out what are we going to get from Hoist the Gold. He was always a really rock solid sprinter, a sort of grade 2, grade 3 type. Won the Phoenix Stakes at Keeneland leading up to the Breeders' Cup Sprint last year. And then the Cigar Mile just came out of nowhere. They were aggressive for the first time with him. And you had to wonder after that race, was it a fluke? Was it a track aided, bias aided victory? I don't think we learned anything in his 2 subsequent starts. The Pegasus World Cup going a 2-turn mile and an eighth against horses like National Treasure and Senor Buscador. He's not going to win that race. And then in the Saudi Cup, he just never picked up his feet.
Yeah, in a blazing pace in the Pegasus World Cup back too. I mean, he went really fast in that race. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of him, Dan, because I don't want to take the Cigar Mile at face value because it just kind of came out of nowhere and seems too fast over a track that seems like it really did carry him that day. I wouldn't bet him off of his other races. That doesn't mean his other races don't make him a major contender in here. His speed plays in here. Him and Zozos are the 2 morning line favorites, and I'm just not a big fan of either one of those horses. So I wanted other horses, but I won't be surprised when they run 1-2 in here.
He was second in this race last year to Cody's Wish. Likely no Cody's Wishes in the
Yeah.
2024 edition of the Churchill Down Stakes. Let's take a look at our top picks. I think this is kind of a race where we want to look for a price. I respect Zozos. I respect Hoist the Gold, but they're coming off a little bit of a layoff. And I think there are some sharper horses and more interesting horses at prices. 3 Technique is one of them.
Yeah, I just hope he gets the right trip in this race. I know he's going to be a fair price in here. He's just a horse, Dan, who I feel like he's double-digit odds. He's not overmatched by these horses. It's just about whether he gets the right trip. I like your top pick, too. I put him second. They're my main 2 in here. And I got Tahano Twist third. I think he's the best sprinter in the race, but he needs the right setup.
Yeah, Gun Pilot, I like what I've seen from him since he's come back as a 4-year-old. And although he got beat in a lesser stake last time out, he was running on at the end. And I'm expecting that again. I think he has some tactical speed to get the jump on the true closers. 9-10-2-4 for Mike, 10-3-7-2 for me. Grade 1, $1 million Churchill Down Stakes on Kentucky Derby Saturday. Good luck.